we have under our belt. Seems like we keep running into issues.
I know it. It's crazy. This time I don't have I don't have video on you, Rick, yet. Let's see. There it is, and it's back. According to this, it should be a lot better now. Come on, everybody. Nope.
Come on, everybody, do the local
Seriously though?
me.
I don't know what's going on with this computer. Hey, it's weird. This computer, I haven't used it in like a week. Usually, I'll use it a few times during the week, and so it's like you wouldn't think electronics would be like an old car that sat around, you know. You have to start it back up. You got to warm it up. You got to change the fluids. Whatever I got to do here. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to unplug this for a minute and see how long this thing lasts. Because maybe again that's part of the problem, but I don't know.
Sending a viral frequency through the
yeah exactly.
Power source.
I don't know. I don't know what to say about it. Other than we should probably.
Well, I can see it now, kinda, sorta.
Yeah, it's probably doing some extreme picture buffering, video output low. I see that. There's not a whole lot I can do here. We should probably just get started, and if all we get is the audio, then we'll post that.
All right.
I don't have any other means of making this better.
We're one of the very few. We're one of the, if not the only, fan-based podcasts that are producing a video, like television version of what we do. So if all we get was the audio, then that's fine. Yeah.
Let me double check one thing. Settings. Let me make sure that this isn't trying to output in some sort of like crazy anything. Video. Output scaled resolution down. Let's try. All right, we're gonna.
Oh, I can see you like moving around now.
Okay, that's good. That actually looks okay. That's a little better. All right, let's. While we have this, and while Rick is still not hung up on us for being idiots, let's do it. Rick, are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right, Sherwin, you ready?
Yep. So, Rick, you remember we got this kind of a thing we do in the beginning where you may not hear us. Or you might hear us for 35 or 45 seconds. Rusty's got to read, and then we'll come into the what you drinking. We know that you don't booze like we do, and that's fine. Doesn't matter. And then we'll go right into introductions. Welcome back to the show, and then if you want to do a Tom Higgins monologue, that's what we'll do right there.
We'll sort of egg you on into the Tom Higgins stuff and everything. Just the normal stuff. You know it. You know that you've done this. Okay. You've done this on both ends.
Cool.
Awesome. All right. Yeah. Sherwin, here we go. Let's start recording. Let's actually bring up our intro music and make sure I have the read. And then we'll do it. Here we go. We're recording now. Welcome, y'all! That's right. This is the Pregame Engineer Tailgate Mayor Racing Podcast, episode number 156. It's Thursday, August 2nd, 2018. I'm Tailgate Mayor Rusty Wallace. I'm in the PETM Podcast studio with Pregame Engineer Andrew Sherwin. What's up, dude?
Hey, man, did you know that Sydney is about to release her first single?
No way.
Yes.
Which one is it?
That is happening very soon. I don't remember the name.
Can't remember? Oh, that's okay.
Sydney. But that's happening very soon.
That's going to be awesome.
Our budding career is about to bud.
That's awesome. We've got a very special guest tonight. Before we get to him, y'all know how what the deal is. This podcast is sponsored by you. That's right. You go to patreon.com/PTM. Join the What You Drinking Club for as little as $1 a month and get that free koozie. Best part is, every cent this year, we're donating to sponsoring drivers. Join the PTM Posse today. Be a part of the sport you love. The PTM driver, Jensen Jorgensen. Last weekend, dude, or last Thursday.
One from the pole.
One from the pole. Holy cow, that was so cool. This week's show, it's brought to you by our official sponsors at the $5 and up per month level. That's Laura Henstraw, Mick Rose, Aaron Bearden, Robert Keplinger, Tony Saul, Colton McClam, Eric Kepner, Ryan Kiefer, Marion Levesque, Patrick Cleary, Jeff Brown, Brandon Crowd, Kathleen McDonald, Stacy Wright, Brandon Carl, Billy Workman, Rika Porter, Jumpy Bob and Les Miller, Jason Rudd, Tommy Witt, Mark Wiley, and Julie Bosley. Wow. That was fun to do. Back in the saddle. Good to be back in the seat. I'll talk about it here in a minute, but I've been in New York. This was like a ragtag operation to even get this podcast going tonight. So
yeah, it's been a little bit of a we've sort of clambered it together.
Right. We want to welcome back to the show, and I'm not saying this to offend any of our past guests, but the smartest person to ever be on a mic on this show, most certainly without even thinking about it. On Twitter, at The Scene Vault and at Rick Houston 73. It's Rick Houston. What's up, man?
Hey, guys. How are you?
We're doing great.
I don't know about this smartest business.
Well, you've got like NASA creds. You write stuff. Yeah, I mean it's pretty massive. So I have no qualms in saying that. I know it's neither one of me or Sherwin.
For sure.
I just stayed at the Holiday Inn Express last night.
Well, sometimes that'll happen. Sometimes you get a little bit of a boost
Yeah.
from staying at the old Holiday Inn Express.
Right.
I think one of the things we love the most about having you on, Rick, is not just that you're kind of a nerd neck like we are, and you sound a little bit like us, and you talk smart. Is that you came back for a second time, and that to us is like that's like our vindication. That
Our
what we
biggest...
did the first go around, that like you didn't hate it. So we really appreciate you being back on.
Well, the fact of the matter is, any time I get a chance to talk about NASCAR history with people who appreciate it, I'm all about that. So anytime you'll have me on, I'll be glad to be here to talk about NASCAR history.
Yeah. And Roger just in the comments says, someone borrowed the pace car again? I remember that story from the last time we had you on. Before we get too far and too deep, Sherwin, what you drinking tonight?
Oh, I've got things scattered all over the place over here. Tried to go with a New York theme. We got the Widow Jane, the really nice stuff, 12-year stuff. I'm not going to tell anybody how much that costs because it's not cheap. Also got a Southern Tier Blueberry Tart, which is a wheat sour blueberry beer, and I know that doesn't fit for anybody that drinks Natty Light on a regular basis, but it's actually pretty tasty.
You know what? I never knew Southern Tier was in New York. That seems kind of a misnomer.
Yeah, and it's kind of upstate too, right?
Yeah.
That's the reason why I picked it, because it's closer to Watkins Glen.
Oh, very nice. Rick, what you keeping the palate moist with tonight?
Man, I've got me some Bojangles unsweet tea.
Oh,
baby.
man.
Right.
They just opened up. I can't remember if I told this story on the podcast yet. They just opened up a Bojangles like next to my house, and I'd never been through the drive-thru. I think we talked about this, right?
I'm sure we have, but it's okay.
Yeah,
Do it again.
Yeah. I'd never been through a drive-thru. Like, there's Bojangles at the racetrack and stuff. I think that's probably the only. No, we had it one time. Me and Sherwin were on the road, but we went inside, right?
Yes.
So you.
Oh, on the way to Darlington.
Yeah, on the way to Darlington. So I pulled up for the first time. I'm like, all right, gonna get me some Bojangles, gonna get me a biscuit with some chicken. It's gonna be awesome. And I pull up, and they go, "It's bow time. What can we do for you?" I'm like, "You're damn right, it's bow time."
That gets you excited.
Yeah. So I think I ordered more food at that point. Like they really that's the best way to do it.
Extra food. Just be having it.
Yeah. Oh, with that, Rick, the Scene Vault. So you've got kind of a new kind of pet project going on, podcast deal, and a spiffy-looking shirt. You wore your Scene shirt. I've got the PETM shirt on. Sherwin's got the brand new American Outlaw 2018.
Outlaws 2018.
Yeah, so we're all sporting, new threads. Tell us about yours and what you got going on.
Well, first of all, my wife is mad at me for wearing a 25-year-old T-shirt or shirt. She said that looks horrible. Well, it's honestly the first time I've had this shirt on since the day that Buckshot Jones whacked me in the face with his birthday cake. You can still see the stains on the shirt. So it's honestly the first time I've had it on since that day.
Wow.
But as far as the Scene Vault thing goes, I own every single copy of Winston Cup Scene, Grand National Scene, NASCAR Scene.
That's right.
Ever printed. and that's a 32-year run of the most complete record of NASCAR history that's available. And it would be a shame for these papers to sit on my shelf collecting dust.
Mm-hmm.
And so Steve Wade and I have been kind of leading the charge with American City Business Journals to get permission to do an online archive of Sting content. And guys, I got to tell you that the history in these papers is just absolutely amazing. There's not a day goes by that I work with these papers that I don't learn something or remember something.
Mm-hmm.
But the fact of the matter is, there are such things as lawyers, and there are some legal hurdles to clear, and for good reason. It can be frustrating at times, but some way, somehow, I'm going to make these papers available for consumption to other people.
I'm telling you,
I think I owe it to the sport to hopefully see that happen.
So we had we talked about it before. It was probably a year ago now at Eldora. Mm-hmm. Steve was his name. Dude named Steve.
I was just looking for his. I can't find his Twitter handle, but he's got like a whole boatload of them.
Right. He had some subset, but a large subset, and he brought my voice is going. He brought
playoffs.
However many he brought, I saw 10 of them, and he only had them in chronological order for 1 year that he brought, and every one of them was a page turner. Every one of them was, oh my gosh, I have to read that. Oh my, it's here's the lowdown on Dale Earnhardt. Here's what happened with, like you said, Buckshot Jones or somebody. You're like, I've got to read every bit of this. So it is just super intriguing for a NASCAR fan.
I think we posted a picture on either Instagram or Twitter.
Yeah, you did.
Mm-hmm.
About his.
He actually reached out to me.
Oh, cool.
I believe his name is Steve Merrick.
That's it.
Yes,
yep.
That's it.
And,
yep.
Yeah. And I actually had a couple of issues that were damaged, and he actually sent me those issues for me to scan and replace the parts that were missing.
Wow!
How about seemed like a cool dude. He had a built out
Ranchero,
like a 72 Ranchero, and he cussed. Well, he didn't cuss me out, but he should have. For calling it a El Camino.
Even
though I know that the Ranchero existed, but like it was definitely a Ranchero, and it had the Gran Torino front end on it, and I still didn't recognize it. I called it the wrong thing.
Yeah. Oh, that's super cool that he got in touch with you then and was able to do that. What a cool community. Has there been any other collaborations in getting the whole set of everything?
Well, actually, as a matter of fact, there has been. As I've went through the papers, I found that I had the last 2 or 3 seasons, the last 2 or 3 years of the paper were given to me by one of the former scene photographers.
Mm-hmm.
And he told me that it was a complete set. Well, as I started going through them, there were probably 15 or 20, 10 or 15 issues missing.
Mm-hmm.
And so I actually reached out on Twitter, and within a couple of hours, I had commitments from people to send me those issues free of charge.
Wow!
And so it really has been a collaborative effort with a lot of people, and that's one of the reasons why I want to see this happen so badly is because of the true interest that's out there. I mean, it's not a gimmick that I'm trying to do. It's not something. It's not a trial balloon that I'm hoping to float. If and when this actually happens, I don't expect to make $1 bazillion or anything like that. But I think that there's enough interest out there to really to see it happen.
How cool is it, Sherwin, that somehow I think Brandon from Lap Traffic or somebody from that crew knew Steve, and then we got to meet him and read his stuff. Rick here completely separately is doing his archiving and everything, and then Rick and Steve hook up as well, like just completely disparate people.
Well,
none of those are cause and effect for either one, but the fact that everybody kind of, in this community is communicating, that's kind of neat to me.
Well, and sum it all up, we met Steve at Eldora.
Right, and meeting at Eldora.
A whole different animal.
Yeah. Well, how cool. So we've got the pet project with that. What's the podcast all about? Is that tied in at all, or how are you doing that thing?
The podcast is related.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously being called the Scene Vault podcast. But several years ago, probably 2008, 2009, early 2010, I actually had a NASCAR history podcast at that time, and I recorded interviews with several legends of the sport.
Mm-hmm.
David Pearson, Ned Jarrett, Bobby Allison, Junior Johnson, just some Bud Moore. I mean,
wow.
To sit down with Bud Moore and hear him not only talk about NASCAR, but his experience on D-Day and the Battle of the Bulge.
Wow.
I can assure you that very few people heard that podcast.
Right.
And so I didn't want to let those interviews lay dormant. So what I've done is I've broken out those interviews, and we'll be releasing them, on the podcast, the Scene Vault podcast, as well as, obviously some new interviews like I did with the Tom Higgins tribute this week.
Yeah. So good. That's a good segue. We were going to ask you about that, the Tom Higgins story, and you did quite a bit there, and everybody should go listen to that. Sherwin had mentioned in our sort of pre-show here that a lot of folks, especially our age, me and Sherwin's age, or newer fans, or even folks possibly older than us a little bit, don't really know a whole lot about his deal. Can you give us the rundown about what his story is and what he brought to the sport?
Well, I would put it this way: every kid now who aspires to be a Major League Baseball player has heard of Babe Ruth, because he was the greatest baseball player who ever lived. An aspiring football player has heard of Walter Payton or Roger Staubach or Bart Starr or any of those legends. In motorsports journalism, there's Tom Higgins, and there's Steve Wade, and there's Barney Hall, and there's Deb Williams. But really, Tom Higgins was the first. From what I understand, he was the very first reporter ever to be assigned to cover every single race on the NASCAR circuit.
What year or what time frame would that have been in?
I believe that he covered his first race in Darlington, I want to say 1958.
Wow.
And when he started full-time on the road, I couldn't tell you. But by the time I came into the sport, he had already been on the road 30 years.
Wow.
So he was absolutely the titan of the infield media center and the press box.
Wow.
Well, so one of the coolest things that I heard on your show this past week, and we would encourage the PETM posse to go listen to the Scene Vault podcast because it's awesome, is the coolest thing that I heard was that Tom Higgins was the first beat reporter. Like,
yeah,
maybe invented the role for NASCAR in terms of you're covering it every week. You're doing an op-ed, you're doing an expose, and you're doing an introspective every week.
Wow.
Well, that was certainly the case with Tom. He was everything that it meant to be a motorsports journalist. He pretty much defined the job, and certainly there were other people who covered the sport early on. I think about people like Bob Myers. I think about certainly Joe Whitlock, who was my own personal favorite from the early press corps. People like Bob Moore, who covered the sport early on, but because Tom worked at the Charlotte Observer, where most of the teams were based, he was kind of the go-to guy. Mm-hmm. And certainly because of his larger-than-life personality, that didn't hurt matters either.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, to get exposure to the history that we wouldn't naturally have, and certainly as fans of today's sport, mm-hmm. and struggling to spend enough time to read history, we really appreciate you being able to give us some of those nuggets.
Yeah. So before this is a story I've got to get to before we start, talking about other stuff. But you said that's the first time you worn that shirt since Buckshot Jones hit you with his birthday cake, and you still got the stains. So give us a little more than that. What's the context there? I love it.
Oh, how long is your show?
As long as you know what? The battery says that we have 1 hour and 57 minutes remaining.
Okay. We might be able to squeeze it in.
Okay.
Buckshot and I, we kind of had a war of practical jokes it was probably about a year. When he won a race at New Hampshire in, I want to say 1998, 1999. I think it was 98. And after the post-race interviews were over, he came to the media center, did his post-race interview and all that. I went back out to the garage and came back in with one of the other reporters. And I turned to him and I said, just follow my lead. And so I walked back into the media center where Buckshot was, still hanging out. And I went up to him and I said, Buckshot, I don't know what's going on, but they want to see you in the NASCAR hauler. There's something wrong with your car, and it's fixing to be ruled illegal.
Oh my gosh!
And he looked at me for just a second, and he bought it, hook, line, and
sinker. Oh my gosh!
And the cool thing is not only did he buy it, his PR person bought it, the track PR person bought it, a couple of the other reporters who were just hanging around bought it, and so he had a full-fledged entourage as he sprinted out to the NASCAR hauler. Well, my mistake was that I caught him before he actually barged in and started cussing everybody. But I stopped him and I said, "Hey, got you," and all that kind of thing. And we had a big laugh, and he swore revenge on me and all that kind of thing. Well, a couple of months later, we were at Pikes Peak, and it happened to be his birthday, and they had him a big birthday cake. And he picked it up, and he made like he was going to throw it at me. And I made the mistake of telling him, "You're not man enough." Well, guess what? He was man enough. And I had birthday cake in my ears and in my hair. I mean, I looked like I was 100 years old. I mean, my hair was whiter than it is now with birthday cake icing and all that. Well, I couldn't. I mean, honestly, the smell, that sweet cake smell, was kind of making me, kind of queasy. So I went out to Souvenir Row and I bought a Randy LaJoy T-shirt to wear the rest of the day.
That's funny.
Oh man!
And I saw what was going on, and I remember very distinctly Jerry Punch asking me what had happened. Well, Jerry kind of filed that away. And as we were getting off the plane in Michigan that year, Jerry said, what are you doing this afternoon? And I said, well, I'm going to the racetrack. And he said, well, let me get up with Matt Gilligan. And he let me and Matt work it out. And so me and Matt decided that Matt was going to get the ESPN camera crew to get Buckshot and do an interview, while I came up behind him and whacked him in the face with a whipped cream pie.
That's just the story keeps giving.
And so I stopped on the way to the racetrack at the grocery store. I got all the makings. I made it in the infield media center. And as I carried that thing through the garage, it was another one of these deals where I had a full-fledged entourage as I made my way to Buckshot's trailer. And we set it up. It was set up so perfectly that Matt had him turned away from the entrance to the garage area, so he wouldn't see me coming. And so while Matt interviewed him on ESPN, or it wasn't live or anything, I came up behind him, and while he was being interviewed, I whacked him in the face with whipped cream pie. So
nice.
That's fantastic. Yeah. Oh man. So we'll get on to the report card here in a moment, Sherwin. I wanted to do a little bit of a soapbox here because I've got an issue. It has nothing to do with NASCAR.
Uh-oh.
Here's what happened. So I was in New York this week, right? And it was for work, and I travel a lot for work. New York City. Yep, where they make that.
Well, that was your first mistake.
Yeah, right. Actually, I mean, I really like New York.
They don't make the paste pecani sauce
but
there.
Definitely don't have the paste pecani there. But on my way back, so I get to the airport. I'm a little bit early, so I walk up to the counter. Hey, you put me on this earlier flight, standby or something? He goes, oh, yeah, we got plenty of room, man. Here. Or not plenty of room, but he's like, we got some room, and, oh, you're a medallion, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, here, we'll do all this. He says, I'll just go ahead and confirm you. Like, you don't even have to do standby. Here's a seat. So here's the thing. As a business traveler and as a frequent flyer, I always travel. I'm not saying I'm sitting first class. I never get upgrades or nothing. I might get an upgrade into like that economy comfort thing or whatever.
Yeah.
But usually I pick my seat, and it's usually right over the wing because there's the exit row there.
Yeah.
So I got all kinds of leg room, right?
Yeah.
And that might be on row 16 or 18 or something like that.
27.
Maybe. But normally halfway or a little better than halfway into the plane, right? Well, I get my seat number. It's 37F, right? So this is back of the plane.
In the back.
Yeah. This plane has 38 rows, right?
F, you're on the window.
I'm on the window, which is my preferred place. So that's fine. I like the window because I can kind of like smash myself into it.
I like the window too.
Kind of get a little more room, and you get to
I don't
look
have to
out
pee
the
a
window.
lot, so
yeah, and I get to look out the window. Window's like a whole nother version of entertainment too. Like, oh, let's look down there and see what we see. So
we used to periscope takeoffs when we weren't supposed to.
Yeah, for sure. So here's what they didn't tell me. The back of the plane is a zoo. I did not realize this, but I'm so used to up front or middle
like
or whatever.
Zebras and rhinoceroses and stuff.
Almost literal. So up in the front or middle of the plane, it's all these business travelers, right? Back in the back. So here's the thing.
It's like camp counselors and all their
yes, all this stuff, right?
Oh, that sucks.
So here's what happened. I'm sitting back there, and I get on the plane, and lady next to me has two small kids. One of them's like 2 years old. One of them's a newborn. Now listen, here's the thing. I'll give her some props. The 2-year-old sat in the middle. I was on the window. 2-year-old was fine the whole time. The baby, is screaming bloody murder the whole time. But once again, I've got earbuds, and I just take music and turn it up on 11, and I don't hear the baby no more. So
you turn it up too.
So I'm like, all right, you know what? I'm sitting in the back. This is fine. Everything's fine. Suddenly, as it was right after we take off and then level off, and now you can get up or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Suddenly, it smelled, I don't know how to put this safe for, thoughts and stuff. It smelled like a fresh Duke the entire plane ride from there in the back.
Sucks.
Only in the back, too. If you get up and walk toward the middle, hey, it smells like, the lady's
Were
perfume
you able
or hand
to
lotion.
identify the human that
No,
dropped the deuce?
of course not. I think they did it in the seat pocket or something as fresh.
Like it had to be out of doors.
It had to be a miss somewhere, right? The lady next to me starts changing her baby's diaper later on the seat tray thing.
Oh my
I'm like,
God.
I smell Duke.
This is not okay.
There's Duke on, like you're getting this on the seat now.
Not only is there a naked child here, there is Dookie.
Besides, any nakedness, it's you're changing a baby's diaper. They have the things in the bathroom right there, right? Later on in the flight, as soon as we land, we're still on the runway. She gets up and starts walking around the plane. They're trying to get her to go sit down, so she's a mess. Every other person has an emotional support greyhound or something huge, so it's freaking... there's dogs everywhere. It is a zoo, dude. I think there was a dude doing tattoos. I think my wallet got stole. I don't know what happened.
I don't get it.
I'm telling you.
I will never understand it, ever.
it was a whole. So here's the thing.
Hell of a diatribe.
Oh man!
And you're not done. Keep going.
Well, no. So here's the thing. At the end, I'm like, I cannot believe this all. I cannot believe this is what the back of the plane is. This is insane. So at the end, I'm thinking, I need to call Delta. I need to tell them to go, where they can stuff this and blah blah blah. And then I had this epiphany. I go, you know what? Would I do it again to get here an hour earlier? Yeah. Like, this is why they make money, because I'm willing to deal with that crap, literal crap.
Money make.
Golly. So there's Rusty's diatribe for the day. Oh my gosh, what is going on
Rick? Like,
in the back of the plane?
We just made him listen to that. For
Rick,
10
do you
minutes.
get to travel much? Have you been a back of the planer recently? This is my first time in probably 10 years sitting in the backpack.
Well, actually, a couple of months ago, I was on a plane to Australia. So my 16-hour flight, I don't want to hear about no dirty diapers. I mean, 16 hours strapped into a seat. No, just load me up with dirty diapers if I just have to fly an hour or two.
Yeah. Oh man, what a weird ordeal. It was another country back there, in terms of how. Again, the business travelers and like the single people or whatever up front, that are just, it's civilized up there. This was like that sixth floor of the Titanic or whatever in the movie, and where everybody's like, I thought we were going to stand up and they'd do Irish jigs and stuff and all that stuff. So I was out of my element.
Man. You're spoiled.
I was out of my element. You're right. I'm spoiled.
Maybe, yeah.
But I mean, at the NASCAR race, when it gets uncivilized, there's not baby diaper changes in public.
No, there's usually just boob shows.
Have you ever been in the infield at Talladega?
We did infield Talladega this year. So less than, or what, 2 or 3 months ago? 3 or 4 months ago?
April.
April? Yeah. Yeah, that was our first time doing it.
You're lucky if you don't see child sacrifice in the Talladega infield.
No kidding. No kidding.
We were a little bit. We thought it was a little tame compared to what the. But I think we went out a little bit late. I think if we'd have gone when all the NASCAR drivers went, because they came out early at 9:30. We didn't get out there till 11. So we might have missed what would you call it? The show. Yeah, the show.
We
might have missed the show.
Shout out to Juliet Miranda who jumped on to say, hey, so what's up, Juliet? Thanks for joining.
Yes.
With that,
Chicago.
Woo, let's take it to the report card. We had Pocono this last week. I'll tell you what, Sherwin. So between
good race.
Between going on vacation and then I come back and then I went out this weekend and then I flew to New York on Sunday. And they have the live TV thing, too, on the way there. And so I was like, sweet, I'm going to be able to watch a race. Yeah, on the plane they have the live TV. And I was like, sweet, I'm going to be able to watch a race. Well, live TV didn't work. So, talk about the most first world problems. But when you're expecting it and then it doesn't happen, you're like, this sucks. So I caught, again, a portion of it. I haven't watched a full live race in 4 weeks now because I keep having to catch up or do whatever. I
think the only thing that should happen after this show is over is that we have to fist fight. Because I don't think
it could be.
I think I've lost all of my credibility because you aren't watching races.
Because I'm not watching races. These are by accident, y'all. Or 3. No, it's just 3. It's just the last 3 that I haven't been able to watch the whole thing. And I'll tell you what, you get this itch, you get this thing. It's like, I know there's people who have suffered from alcoholism and suffered from, they have issues, maybe problems with their own stuff or problems with family with alcohol. But if you're just kind of recreational drinking and then you just sort of stop for a while and you're twiddling your thumbs, you're like, I could really go for a beer right now, in a certain social situation or something. And I'm twiddling my thumbs right now like, man, I got to see some NASCAR. This is killing me. Didn't get to see. Oh, that's why I counted 4 because one of them was Eldora. I didn't get to see that.
Oh yeah.
So man, it's killing me right now.
No, Bill Burr says the same stuff.
Yeah, it's crazy. So, with first period, let's talk about Pocono. You said it was a good race, especially for Pocono. DiBurrito putting some scare into is that Almirola, and let's talk about that and give it your grade. And Rick, feel free to chime in.
Absolutely.
All right, so I guess I'll give I'll give it a go. I from an entertainment perspective,
Mm-hmm.
like DiBurrito going over to Almirola and saying, "What's up?" Like, that's funny to me because he's like twice Almirola's size.
I was gonna say,
Like, he could snap his head off like with a couple of pinches. Just sort of pinch his head off like we used to pinch the head off quail when we wanted to cook some that we didn't want to go shoot down at the farm. So, I mean, I thought that was awesome. I thought the race in general was pretty good. I mean, Kyle won, so people are going to feel a certain kind of way about that. But overall, there were several different leaders. There was all of our big three were involved. Whether we like that or we don't, that's probably going to depend. That's probably going to affect the way you think about the race.
Sure.
How about Kyle tied Tony Stewart for Cup win?
That was huge. So that's a historic thing. And for the historic part, let's go to Rick Houston. And Rick, tell us what that means to you and what that means for the sport.
I was hoping you would ask me about this.
Excellent.
Everything that I heard, there's been more and more talk about Kyle approaching 200 total wins.
Mm-hmm.
And people on Twitter just lose their minds about it. They say, well, it only counts if it's Cup wins. It only and the Kyle fans say, well, Richard Petty won on quarter-mile dirt tracks, and so that doesn't count. They have to fight over who was better, Richard Petty or Kyle Busch. And the fact of the matter is, there's no way to compare.
Mm-hmm.
There's absolutely no way to compare. Richard Petty was the greatest driver of his generation. Dale Earnhardt was the greatest driver of his generation. Jeff Gordon was the greatest driver of his. And I believe that Kyle Busch is the greatest driver of his generation. And let's just be happy with that. Now, as far as the 200 win total goes, personally, I believe that it should just be Cup wins. Now, is 200 total wins in NASCAR's top three national divisions a significant achievement? Yes, absolutely. It's a significant achievement. But does it mean that he's better than Richard Petty or Dale Earnhardt or Jimmy Johnson or anybody else? No, it does not. It means that he's the greatest driver of his generation.
How often do you put a generation? I'm curious because notably absent from your list was Jimmy Johnson. I wonder if do you put him second, or is there a generation in between, a Jeff Gordon and now a Kyle Busch? I could actually see that.
Oh, certainly. He's the best. He's the best driver of his generation because when Dale Earnhardt came along, Richard Petty stopped winning championships.
Mm.
When Jeff Gordon came along, Dale Earnhardt quit winning championships. When Jimmy Johnson came along, Jeff Gordon quit winning championships. And so, this obsession with who's better, there's no way to win the argument.
Mm-hmm.
Because then if you talk about Richard Petty and Dale Earnhardt and Jeff Gordon and Jimmy Johnson and Kyle Busch, what do you do with David Pearson?
Yeah.
Yeah, to me...
What do you do with Cale Yarborough?
Mm-hmm.
What do you do with Cale?
Or Bobby Allison?
Bobby is a great input. To me, the only argument that even matters from an entertainment perspective is the fact that David Pearson only competed 3 times for the championship, and he won all 3 in the Richard Petty era. So we could talk about whether or not those two guys, which one was the best race car driver. I don't think in the modern era we can talk about. In the 90s, Jeff Gordon steals the day by a landslide.
Mm-hmm.
In 2002 and 2011, Jimmy Johnson is Mount Rushmore material. What we don't have since 2010 is we don't have a new person that's like stealing the day every day. Kyle Busch is winning races at a pace that I mean, it's very David Pearson-esque. But he's running every race, and he's not winning championships on the reg. And that we have that certain way of feeling about that.
They do. Well, they also do move the goalpost on him probably a lot more than they have for other champions, past champions.
There were goalposts that were moved back then, too, with motor size.
I'm just talking about championship, how to win a championship.
Yeah.
But
no, you're right.
Sure.
You're right.
Maybe not. I don't know.
No, I totally agree with you on that in terms of how complicated they've made the rule system to win a championship is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Don't even get me started on that.
We won't. Instead, we'll go straight to second period. We're going to talk about Bubba Wallace Jr. He is through 2020 now. Now with Richard Petty Racing. I'm giving this an A+, just like I gave it when he first signed on. You know what he feels like right now is this is kind of how Joey started a little bit. Maybe came in, some people thought, a little too early. Although, I mean, he's been around too. Bubba has. He's older than what Joey was at that time. Having mixed success in his first year, and then I think opportunity, there's so much opportunity. That's what Richard Petty is seeing, or RPM is seeing, and go ahead and get him on for another 2 years. And that, I think this is going to be obviously, but this is the big 2 years. This isn't like a signing Jimmy for another 2 years through 2020. You know that he's gonna, bring the fans and he's a legend and all that stuff. This is the opportunity 2 years to me. But I really obviously love the move. I love Bubba, so that's where I'm at with it.
Big fans of Bubba here at the PETM.
Yeah. Rick, thoughts?
Well, there's nothing I would like to see more than for Richard Petty Motorsports to get on a higher plane. Mm-hmm. And whatever they need to do that, I don't know. But I will say this, and you mentioned Pocono without mentioning Bubba's wreck. That was a very, very serious accident that could major results.
Yeah.
But the thing about it is, and the thing that really kind of bothered me was somebody got on Twitter, and I don't know who it was, but they said that Bubba's wreck was not that big a deal because of all the safety equipment, and so there was really, no matter how hard he hit, he wasn't going to get hurt. And guys, that's somebody who just simply does not understand what NASCAR racing is all about.
Mm-hmm.
The fact of the matter is with all the safety walls that have been, added to all the racetracks, with the containment seats, with the Hans device, with some of the safety features that have been implemented into the race cars themselves, it is still a very dangerous sport.
Sure.
And I do think that some of the drivers have a infallibility, invincibility.
Yeah.
So I think it was a very special moment when he dropped that 1 minute to let everybody know that he was okay, because 20 years ago that might not have happened.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to say this, and I don't know what you were about to say, and I'm cutting you off, and
I
know that.
It's fine. That means we're good podcasters now. Like, we both have something on deck to talk about.
My emotions were moved all the way to the place where I wasn't sure how to react when that window net didn't come down. And I know that Bubba has taken some flack. Yeah. He's been on a couple different podcasts since then, and we've all heard from him, and he understands why we as fans and or half-assed media people have commented on this and how long it took him to put that window net down. But it was all about him gathering his breath and his senses and going, I got to get out of this car. It's not on fire. I got some time. But when we see that hit as fans on television, when they finally show it to us, and it takes 25, 30 seconds for him to put that window net down, you start to get that feeling, at least I did, about when Earnhardt didn't put his net down. You're like, please, God, do not let us deal with a death in this time.
Or even
we have done such a good job of keeping these guys healthy. Can we please not have this?
Yeah.
And then he fires it down, and you're like,
sweet.
Awesome.
Sweet.
Yes.
Yeah. You know, the Twitter folks that Rick talked about, to me, that attitude parallels what we have in the NFL right now, which is, these guys are padded up, or maybe had 10 years ago. These guys are padded up, they're hitting hard, but that's what people love, and they're not going to suffer any problems from this. This thing is too safe. And now look, a few years later, what's going on? You know what I mean? So I feel like if you start getting complacent or taking for granted any sort of safety stuff, and not looking both long-term, not making it, a top priority, or ever saying, we're good enough right now, which is what that attitude tells me. Oh, we're good enough on safety right now. We don't have to worry about stuff. Then that's when you start getting into trouble with all kinds of other stuff. So I think that's a very poor attitude. I think, a lot of people would agree with that, and I'm glad that Rick brought that up.
Well, Bubba kicked ass on the Glass Case of Emotion podcast this week as he filled in for young Ryan Blaney, who was at his sister's wedding up in Asheville. Props to Emma. And he did a great job, and he seems to be ready to go. He wants to race.
Rick, you were saying?
Well, I was going to add that Dale Earnhardt felt that they had done enough in the field of safety. He was very adamant that he was going to change any kind of seats. He was very adamant that he was going to wear an open face helmet. And he had a very famous, for lack of a better way to put it, tirade at Richmond in September of year 2000, and he basically, that was said, the very famous line about, if you think we're going too fast, you need to tie a kerosene rag around your ankles, and so the ants don't crawl up your ankles and out your candy ass. But the thing is he, in a very real sense, he paid with that. He paid for that attitude a lot. And I'm like you. I simply don't understand when people get on social media and say somebody will post a picture of a cockpit from like 65 or whatever, and it be very bare bones and a very simple bucket seat, and the driver's wearing short sleeve t-shirt or something like that, and they say, now those were real men. Those were the good old days. No, those weren't the good old days. Those were the days that every time a race started, there was a very real chance that not all the drivers were going to survive.
That's strong.
And so, when it comes to today, is it a perfect situation? No. But is it light years better than what it used to be? Absolutely. And, I simply don't get people complaining about drivers today not being really, well, because of the safety things, the paraphernalia that they use.
Yeah,
you have to use those things.
Yeah, you have to.
I really appreciate you saying that, Rick, because like next week's guest is Brock Beard, who's just written a book about J.D. McDuffie, who was killed at Watkins Glen. And so exactly what you just said, like, you don't know. These guys are going to suit up, they're going to helmet up, they're going to get in their cars and strap down, and you may not get to see them again as them. And that's important to understand. It's important to understand that about the history, and it's also important to understand that because we have made so many advancements in history that we have not lost a driver on a racetrack since 2001, and rest their souls. that I don't have a finishing.
I know where you're
that.
going.
Like, rest their souls that we have not had that happen in 17 years.
Yeah.
And this whole new brand of NASCAR fan, which includes us, has not had to endure watching their driver pass away while racing.
Yeah, and I mean, how many window nets haven't gone down? You can probably count them on one hand, right? And so that's probably that's a big reason why the reaction is so strong when that doesn't happen.
Yeah,
right here. So we got to move on though. Let's keep moving.
Okay.
No, you know what? If Rick's got something to say, Rick's gonna say it. Make it happen, Rick.
I was just going to conclude by saying, if you ever get to a situation where you don't go to the racetrack, at least aware of the fact that somebody can get hurt, I can assure you that I did not go to the racetrack on the morning of May 12, 2000 in New Hampshire expecting anything to happen that day.
Well,
and the fact of the matter is that day was by far, the worst day of my professional life when Adam Petty lost his life. And I was not expecting it.
Mm-hmm.
And, you never would have expected anything like that to happen in New Hampshire. And certainly, I think that Barnhart's legacy, Adam Petty's legacy, Kenny Irwin's legacy, Tony Roper's legacy, Alexander's legacy is going to be the fact that in the 17 years since they died, nobody has lost their lives. But it's still out there.
Yep.
There's still the opportunity. We easily could have lost Mark Martin at Michigan with that weird side spin deal. But Rusty, we got another.
Yeah, let's keep
segment.
going. We've got third period here. Alex Bowman, speaking of 2020, signs with Nationwide through 2020 in the number 88. So that's big news for him. I don't know if he's getting the on track. We're about to talk about him. He's 56 points up on Stenhouse and Menard. We'll get to that in just a minute. But I think that's big for. Obviously that's big. Nationwide is big in terms of a sponsorship. Obviously that carries the legacy of Dale Jr. too, having been sponsored there as well, and Nationwide staying in the sport again. So I think there's a lot of big things to be proud of, both in the driver and in the sport, being able to hang on to a sponsor like that.
Yeah, I think hanging on to Nationwide is. I think it's 17 to 19 races, somewhere around in there, because they've obviously got the Exalta partnership there with Alex. But I think the Dale Jr. relationship with Rick Hendrick and Nationwide probably plays a role in this. I think they all benefit from it, obviously. Anytime you can get sponsorship on a car that you don't have to pay for yourself is obviously a good way to go.
Yeah.
I think it's – and Alex, this should breed a little confidence in him that he's here for 2 more years.
Mm-hmm.
So go race.
Yeah.
Go race your race.
Yeah. Yep. Rick, what's that mean to you?
Well, I think anytime a young guy like an Alex Bowman can get a shot, I think it's certainly a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder sometimes, though, if the rush to the younger guys may not be what at least some of Hendrick Motorsports' problem, because they have such a difference in experience. You have Jimmy Johnson, the 7-time champion, and then you have Alex Bowman and William Byron, who are coming in as newcomers.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe if they had a middle guy, somebody, I can't draw somebody off the top of my head, who's maybe a little, who can be like a go-between, in information. So, but as far as Alex's new deal, man, there are some kids who I we're going to be special. And the only thing is I think that because this is such a results-oriented business, people are far too impatient with an Alex Bowman or a William Byron or certainly a Chase Elliott. People are giving Chase Elliott down the road, and this matter of fact is, I mean, his daddy didn't until his 5th or 6th year in the sport. Mm-hmm. So people need to chill out and give these kids a chance to learn.
Right. Let's go to fourth period. Let's talk about, you know what? Mick Rose sent us a question, and he gave us an over-under. So, if we're grading stuff, it might as well make up one of our report cards here. Mick Rose at GoDucks42_Mick. He says, NASCAR will do the post-qualifying inspection again at the Glen, and with track position being so important, will there be more or less than 3 cars failing inspection? If you're talking about cars failing inspection, I'm going to go with the over pretty much in all cases. Sherwin?
Almost always.
Yeah.
I don't think
nowadays.
And
especially, sorry to interrupt here, but especially at a place that is a very different setup than other places. Guys are going to miss the mark here and be out of compliance, and I think that's going to be more than 3.
Yeah, so I want to give a shout out to a guy that was very candid on the Twitter today when I talked about this. It's a guy that I think we're going to get on the show at some point. His name is Brian. I won't reveal anything else because none of that matters. But he was very candid about how the teams are working really hard to try to figure out how their car fits NASCAR's rules, and sometimes they're not going to be in compliance. Mm-hmm. And I think it's he was very cordial and very fair in my criticism of the fact that hey, if you don't like that you're getting criticism for not passing spec, mm-hmm. like tech inspection, then just don't fail tech inspection. Mm-hmm. Like maybe it's not that simple.
Rick is our history buff here. Is there another time in NASCAR that this reminds you of in terms of the amount of failed inspections that we're having and stuff, or is this a product of the tightening of the rules? Wondering what your perspective is there.
Well, I think certainly I can't remember this many teams failing inspection, and certainly to such minute degrees. I mean, people were failing inspection by just thousandths of an inch and that kind of thing. I mean, I used to cover races where people would be low by a quarter inch. Mm-hmm. And that seemed like such a minute deal. Well, now a quarter of an inch, it might as well be a mile. Mm-hmm. As tightly as they're measuring cars. I can't help but wonder, though, if NASCAR hasn't become a victim of its own procedures, mm-hmm. And making it almost impossible to pass inspection, because there's so many variables that can play into a out by a thousandth or whatever it is. I used to laugh when people would say, well, that was caused by damage during the race and all that kind of thing. I mean, people used to sit on race cars and ride the victory lane. Mm-hmm. and be able to pass inspection. Yeah. Well, now you can't even take a car in victory lane, basically.
Yeah.
And so that's one area. I think it might have been better, in the past, where there was a bigger tolerance. Now I think it's that there really is ability on the team parts. I mean, how are you going to measure a thousandth of an inch?
Right.
You can't.
Right.
So in a lot of cases, I don't think that their motives are ill intentioned. I think it's just being such a tolerance that you can't pass inspection.
It's funny you mention that because I've been operating with a spec in my professional life that is 0.1 millimeter. And I said, who in the hell could measure that?
Yeah.
Especially in a disposable fabric that stretches.
Yeah.
All right?
Stretchable
So
fabric.
let's be honest with each other here. It's obviously not an appropriate level to be operating in. Why? I don't understand why how have we clawed ourselves into this place where, like, such a minuscule deal that maybe is related to air pressure, or how much, like, did you cool your tires down the right way? Did you run over the crap that's in the corner? Like, that could change the way the height is.
I think the teams have a lot more minute control over, a hundredth of an inch nowadays than they did before. If you're just talking about
shocks,
if you're just talking about a screw jack, it's hard to get that thing within a quarter inch one way or the other. But now with all the technology and everything else, they can get that within 100th of an inch or 1,000th of an inch or something, and that's what's causing NASCAR to have to tighten up on stuff, because you've got to put a line somewhere, right? And you can even say, okay, a quarter inch either side of this line, well, they're going to be 0.250001 on the other side of it, if that's what's going to help, and if they can help
that's
it.
True.
And so you have to draw the line somewhere. I think that's what's going on with a lot of this. So moving on to fifth period, talk about playoffs. Like we do so often nowadays. Bowman, 56 points up on Stenhouse and Menard, who are tied. Just outside the bubble. So we're talking about the bubble here. What I'm pretty much taking for granted that we've got Jimmy and Chase in the playoffs at this point, because they're 100-something ahead.
Chase
with just
is
a
like
handful.
128.
Yeah. So the only bubble we're looking at now, really, I think, is those three drivers. So I'm going to talk about them. Bowman, 56 points up, like I said, on Stenhouse and Menard. Is that an insurmountable lead at this juncture? Sherwin, what do you think?
For those guys, absolutely. Yeah. For those fellers, yes. There's no way they can score enough points in the next 6 races to get there.
Mm-hmm. So that means you got to do one thing, doesn't it?
Got to win.
Got to win. Got to put up the W. And I said I'm taking for granted that Jimmy and Chase are in. They haven't won, so obviously 2 new winners puts one of them out. So
absolutely,
I shouldn't say they are safely in necessarily, but if it comes down to points, which it looks like it's going to.
Track schedule suggests that the big 3 are probably going to win at least 4 of the next 6 races.
Yeah. Rick, your thoughts?
Don't get me
happy.
I am not a fan of the Chase or any of its iterations in the 12, 14 years that it's been in existence. Now I have a revolutionary idea for a championship format that I believe would be the greatest thing that ever happened in NASCAR this side of Richard Petty. If you're going to have, and I'll tell you, I mean, I told this on the podcast that I had before, and I thought that my co-host was going to have a stroke when I unveiled this revolutionary idea. If we're going to have a chase, or if we're going to have a playoff type format, here's what we do. Run the first however many races, 35 races or whatever, 30 races, and at those races, the top 20 in points get into the first championship race, the first playoff race. The top 15 finishers in that race get into the second race. The top finishers from that race get into the championship race, and whoever wins that race is the champion. It's a one-race chase, in effect.
Okay.
So there.
You like
write me my check.
You like the LCQ and heat race style, like almost a dirt style deal.
Yeah, because I simply don't like talk about. I mean, 16th place. Who cares? You know, who's 12th place or whatever. You know, I want to see it being decided on the racetrack as opposed to on a later. And however many points this guy has to make to get into the chase or get into the championship round. You know, if you're going to do something like that, let them race it out.
I'm impressed that for someone with so much history in NASCAR, usually when you hear from someone who's been in the sport this long about the playoffs, chase, whatever we're calling it, that the major criticism is that they went to this style of win and you get on the next round, or you know, these rounds of things and this hyper focus on winning as opposed to consistency. But I feel like Rick has brought in an even further into where we're at right now with his perspective there. So I dig it.
NCAA bracket.
yeah.
Style.
Well, and well, to your point, that's a great point. You want to get more excitement around the races. I think that does it for sure. With an NCAA style like you're talking about. So with that, let's move on to recess. We got our Junkers with Yonkers. Thank you, the Yonkers, or for sending this. Did Brad send this one in?
Motorsports. Thank you.
Yeah. So he says, if you're Kyle Busch and you're feuding with Stenhouse right now, do you just wear an Aaron Rodgers jersey everywhere on race weekends?
That's funny.
Oh, that's good. You know what? Here's my deal: is if you're Kyle Busch and you're feuding with Stenhouse, just win every race, which he seems to be doing right now. So show him what's up front.
You don't need to troll that guy
at
all.
Yeah.
You're only giving him attention if you troll him.
And I think Stenhouse has enough. I should say, Kyle's not the only one who.
The Danica stuff is funny, though.
Well, that's funny. Yeah, that's funny. But Stenhouse owes.
She's richer than he is.
Karma all over the garage right now.
Yeah.
After Daytona and after.
When he wrecked 47 cars in a 40-car race?
Yeah, not at once either. Yeah. Like multiple
Just
times.
Add them up.
So I don't think Kyle Busch is the only one here. So anyway, what do you think, Aaron? Has anybody Aaron, did I say Aaron? What do you think, Rick?
Aaron.
I don't know what I'm thinking right now.
We're talking Aaron Bearden?
No, I don't. I saw Aaron Rodgers on here when I said that.
Oh,
Aaron Rodgers.
Rick, what's the best troll that you've seen in the history there? Besides getting hit in the shirt with a birthday cake.
Man, there are so many good ones, but I really have to think about Darrell Waltrip's mind games that he played with Bill Elliott.
Okay.
In the 1985 season. I mean, he really played a masterful game, and really kind of made fun of Bill Elliott and his crew, Big Country Bumpkins, and that kind of thing. And I don't know what any impact that actually had, but the fact is, Darrell Waltrip won the championship as good a year as what Bill Elliott had.
Mm-hmm. All right, so that's the biggest one is the DW getting all over Bill. I like it.
Is it DW or?
Did you say Darrell? You said Darrell, right?
Dale.
Yeah, Darrell.
Darrell.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
All right.
Or not cool, actually, at all. Austinville from Dawsonville, damn it.
You know what? Laura at Fromage is Good sent us a question, but I'm going to morph it a little bit because you talked about earlier about some of the interviews that you have in the vault that you want to make sure that aren't lost or anything. What are you don't have to tell us the context or anything, but give us a few more names or the marquee names or the marquee interviews that you have stashed that you're getting ready to pull back out of the vault and have people listen to.
Well, certainly the one that I did with Bud Moore stands out to me because to hear him talk as explicitly as he did about World War II. He said that war is hell, and he went on to describe what hell is. He said that while they were fighting through Europe, they killed every living thing in their way, including dogs, animals, birds, whatever.
Wow.
And to hear him talk about it really was a sobering interview. And the interview that I have that's going to be released next week with Junior Johnson, and to hear him talk about how he put Winston with NASCAR.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and that honestly changed the course of NASCAR history.
Yeah.
Because Winston put in, millions upon millions of dollars and really put NASCAR on the map. He also talked about being on the verge of firing Darrell Waltrip and hiring Dale Earnhardt. Which, how would NASCAR history have changed if that happened?
Yeah.
He had Coors as a sponsor. He had Coors lined up to buy. I want to say Bill Bonnet, and would that have left Bill Elliott? Because certainly the Coors money, for his 1985 season when he won the Winston Million. So there were a lot of dominoes there that could have fallen, but I think of the interview that I did with Ned Jarrett and him talking about the call that he made at the end of the 1993 Daytona 500. And I also think about when he talked about the accident that claimed Fireball Roberts' life. There are some good interviews that I have that I think are going to hopefully get some people's attention.
That's so cool.
I'm super excited to hear all this.
All of those
things
so are awesome.
And
I've been reading about them, and Rusty has too. And we've been trying to do our best to be stewards of the sport because we do this podcast thing that we think is fun and it's a hobby. But we have awesome people like you that know these things about all this history of NASCAR, and there's a ton of people that want to hear this stuff that have never heard it before. I mean, and I'm number one on that list, so that's the part that's super cool. I'm looking forward. Yeah. This project is, just the more I think about it, the more, and the more that you talk about the things that you've got in the vault. I mean, you've got some serious, if we're talking liquor here, we're talking about stuff that's been aging for 40 years in the barrel. We've got yes, sir.
This is good stuff. So with that, let's take it to. We're going to be sitting here talking for another. You asked how long this podcast is. We might.
We started 20 minutes late. We might go 20 minutes long.
Yeah, we might hit the battery length on this. With that, let's go ahead and gas it up. Going to Watkins Glen, the super speedway of the road courses, if you will. And what did we have? Was it Sonoma that we were talking about with the representative from Sonoma about the elevation change and how crazy that was? And I would love to know. I'm sure I can look it up, or somebody from the posse will tell me.
As much at Watkins Glen.
Is it not? Okay. I know that
there is absolutely elevation change, but it's not near. It's almost there's something crazy like 200 feet.
Mm-hmm.
At Sonoma.
Yeah, it was
at
crazy.
Watkins Glen, it's closer to like 80.
Okay, huh?
But I'm not 100%.
I'm not sure why, but I thought Watkins Glen would have been more, just because it looks a little more pronounced on TV. But if it's not, it's not. That's. I was just thinking about that for some reason.
Is just so nuts.
Yeah, Rick, give us some history at the Glen. What's your what are you looking forward to?
Well. We actually talked about it on the podcast with Stephen and Junior. A lot of people complain about courses. They believe that NASCAR should just be run on oval tracks. When the fact of the matter is, NASCAR was born on the back roads of Georgia, North Carolina, South Carolina, people running moonshine and running revenuers on open road. They didn't know what a circle track was and oval track was. They got from point A to point B and hoped that they didn't get arrested. So, in my opinion, you don't get any more NASCAR than a road course. And one of my favorite NASCAR memories is of going to Watkins Glen and it raining one day, and I spent like an hour in the pace car Carl Simmons as they drive the racetrack. And I mean, just go around that place was just, I don't know if people can concentrate on each turn and make each turn because it is such a technical racetrack.
Mm-hmm. I think the most poignant thing said there is there is nothing more NASCAR than a road course.
That's to all of our listeners who haven't listened to Rick's podcast, a couple podcasts ago, he talked about this. He talked about how, like, NASCAR didn't start on ovals. NASCAR started running around in the backwoods, getting away from revenuers.
Yeah, they're point to point. If you want the modern day version, it's the rally cars.
They built badass cars, and they raced right and left all over the place.
Yeah.
So, NASCAR fans at our core, we should be embracing these road courses like to the T. We should be going, why don't we have more?
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. So
and I think another thing is that during those days there was no such thing as laying back.
Yeah.
Because if you laid back while you were being chased by a revenue, you were going to go to jail.
You were freaking to go to jail.
So I think that's where. Yeah, absolutely.
You're going to damn jail.
So yeah, you better do it.
That's NASCAR as F.
Let's go. You know what this sound means, Sherwin? There it is. Start your engines. We get to talk about our picks. I don't remember who I picked last week.
Watkins Glen
probably did terrible, but
well, we didn't pick last week because we didn't do a show.
We did a show last week.
Did you forward a show?
No, we did a show last week.
Oh, we did?
Yeah, we did. We were here. We high-fived. We were like, that was a really good. It was just me and you talking the whole time.
Just us.
I know.
Yeah.
Showing how easily he forgets. I don't know. But with that, let's give our guest.
It was a good show.
The opportunity. It was a good show that I didn't know existed until moments ago. Let's give our guest the opportunity. Rick, who are you picking to win Watkins Glen this weekend?
Well, I'm going to go with the safe pick, and I'm going to say Martin Truex.
Martin Truex. Okay.
Very safe pick. It'll be his third straight road course win.
That's impressive. Series. That's impressive. Sherwin?
Boy, I'm going to go with
Logano, okay.
He's had some success at Watkins Glen in the past.
Okay. I keep having to go with Boyer on the road courses.
Boyer's really good at road
courses. I know. So it's hard not to. So that's where I'm going. We've got Boyer, we've got Truex, and we've got whoever the hell you just picked.
Logano. I'm pretty sure we just picked like the number 1, 2, and 3 like PowerPoint, like if you were doing DraftKings, like who they would like the highest cost.
Yeah.
To start these guys. I think we just picked those. But that means we're paying attention.
Yeah. Rick, the last thing we got for you today, Stranger Staying, Asher J. Staying asks us, so a lot of the racing people are just really good storytellers where you don't have to name names or anything, but were there any just bad storytellers or bad interviews that they just keep droning on? You're going, boy, I wish this Grandpa's story would hurry up and finish.
Let's see. There are two drivers in particular. One, a former Busch Series champion. The other, a driver who won the pole for the Daytona 500. And neither one of them knew how to stop talking. I mean, I would honestly forget what the question was. And my eyes would glass over store, and I would be out. I would be thinking about what I was going to be doing for dinner that night. 'Cause I always thought about that. But they would talk, and it was just the most amazing thing that I had ever heard in my life. And both very nice guys, very, very personable, but they simply did not know how to quit talking.
Oh, that's
I'm not naming.
Would you please shut the bleep up?
I love it. I love it. No, it's good to know that they come in all different shapes and sizes, and they come in all different personalities and all that too. So it's good to know that not every one of them is buttoned up, given their laundry list of sponsors, and saying, it was a good race. We did blah blah blah. Crew chief was good. We got a few things to work on next week. I want to thank my sponsors. Done. Like, there's guys who really get deep into it good, and then there's guys who just drone on forever. I love glassing over. I'm not going to eat for dinner.
Fat.
Yeah, and Rick's sitting here thinking about Bojangles and thinking about,
it's bow time.
It is bow time. With that, I think it's bow time for us. Rick, do you want to send us off? Tell us where the folks can find you and everything, and what's coming up next, and what they can expect on the podcast here soon.
Certainly on Twitter, the Scene Vault. And my personal account is Rick Houston 73. Next week's podcast will be Junior Johnson, the second half of my interview with Junior Johnson, and I believe next will most likely be Bud Moore. I just don't think I can hold on to that one much longer. People need to hear it.
I'll tell you what gives me
That's
goosebumps,
awesome.
Sherwin, is, next week I'm going to have Bud Moore on the show, or next week I'm going to have Junior Johnson on the show, and the week after that, Bud Moore. It's like, wow, that's bringing something to the table that literally nobody else can bring. There's nobody else who could bring that type of thing.
Without
that
a doubt. Without a
so
doubt.
cool what Rick Houston's doing.
We are not able to do that, as it turns out.
Right. No matter how many people we ask, no matter how many yeses and no's or yeses that we can get, that is something
We are going to have Brock Beard,
can't
who
have.
wrote an awesome book about J.D. McDuffie.
We're looking forward to that. So, with that, Sherwin, let's start closing this thing down. Y'all know where you can find us at PTM Podcast, ptmpodcast.com, and all the usual places. Like Sherwin said, next week we'll have old Brock Beard on. We'll be talking. And Rusty might actually get to watch a dadgum NASCAR race this weekend.
I hope you do, man.
My TV's going to blow out. There is no doubt about it.
Rusty's over there at Tailgate Mayor, and I'm at Pregame Engineer at Andrew L. Sherwin. And then we got the old Instagram, just like Rusty said, at PTM Podcast.
Et cetera, et cetera.
Y'all follow us.
Y'all know where to do.
Oh, you know what? Go give us a like and a follow and a whatever the heck at on iTunes.
Oh, yeah, on the old
Because
iTunes.
apparently that matters.
Yeah, all right.
Apparently
So-
it matters to people more important to us.
There you go.
It should matter to us.
Yeah, right. Emulate those
Give
you
us
love.
those 5 stars. Give us that rating.
Give us a 1
Let's
star.
do it.
With that, y'all, thank you for coming along for the ride, and we're looking forward to next week. We'll talk to y'all then. Hit that button right there. Man, Rick, thank you so much again. It's always just an absolute blast when you're on. We learn. We always tell people we want to laugh, we want to learn, and we lean heavily on both sides of that when you're on. So that's so much fun.
Thank you. I really do appreciate that. And thanks for having me on. I really do appreciate it.
Oh yeah, man. This is an absolute blast. I mean, for
Rick,
us,
I love your show, man. I really, it's awesome, man. I hate it for you and Steve to have to go through obviously the sorrow of, hats off. God almighty.
I'm going to be honest with you. Between us, I'm really kind of worried about Steve.
well, so we're still live on the YouTube. I
Because-
don't want you to have to give any dish right there. Yeah, we'll I'll you know what? I'm going to go ahead and hit the YouTube button here.
Her off.
Yeah. So YouTubers, thank you for being on. This has been an absolute blast.
Thank you very much,
for us
y'all.
as well. And I'm running low on battery as it turns out, so we've got to get this thing going. Thank you for hanging out